Our lesson for tonight is on adding mixed numbers with different denominators. Now, remember, this is not in your Go Math book because it's a 5th grade sneak peek. So this is lesson 2. Make sure that you write our essential question, how can I add mixed numbers with different denominators? Make sure you write that down at the top of your notes. Okay, let's look at our first problem. We have 5 1/3 plus 2 1/2. So as you're noticing, we have to add our mixed numbers, but they have different denominators. So I have my steps for us to go through as we add our mixed numbers. So let's look. First it says that we have to, step 1 says, find a common denominator because 3 and 2 are not the same, so we need to change them so that they are the same so we can add. So first thing is I need to find the least common multiple of both the 3 and the 2. Now, my multiples of 3 are 3, 6, 9, 12. I'm going to stop there. Now my multiples of 2 are 2, 4, 6, 8. Now I'm going to stop there because I can already see what the least common multiple is. It's 6. That's the smallest multiple that they have in common. So I need to change my 5 1/3 and 2 1/2 so it has a denominator of 6. So let's change our 1/3. We know that it needs to have a denominator of 6. Well, how did I get to that 6 from the 3? I needed to multiply 3 times 2 is 6. Well, then 1 times 2 is 2. Now, let's change our 1/2 so it has a denominator of 6. I know that 2 times 3 is 6, so 1 times 3 is 3. Now I have my equivalent fractions that have denominators of 6 that are the same. So now I can add. 2 6 plus 3 6 is 5 6. Now don't forget your mixed numbers, your whole numbers here. We need to add those too. 5 wholes plus 2 wholes is 7 wholes. So my answer is 7 and 5 6. Now my last step is telling me that I need to simplify if needed. But I can see that my fraction, the 5 is 1 away from 6, so when it's 1, it's done. They're consecutive numbers, so I do not need to simplify. Okay, here's our next problem. Denise mixed 1 4/5 ounces of blue paint with 2 1/10 ounces of yellow paint. How many ounces of paint did Denise mix? This is an addition problem because we need to find out the total amount of paint that she mixed. So my problem is 1 4/5 plus 2 1/10. Now, remember, we're writing it vertically because it's easier for us. I want you to make sure that you're writing this problem down with me in your notes. So 1 4/5 plus 2 1/10. Now, I need to add these fractions, but I need to find common denominators first. I cannot add the fractions like they are. So first step is I need to find a common denominator, which means I need to find the least common multiple of 5 and 10. So let me list my multiples of 5. If I count by 5s, I can say 5, 10, 15. I'm going to stop there because look at the number that I just said. I said 10, so let me do my multiples of 10 and you'll see why it's simple. 10, 20. Now see that I have a least common multiple of 10. So that's the one I'm going to use. Now, I need to change my 4/5 so it has a denominator of 10. How did I get from 5 to 10? Well, 5 times 2 is 10, so 4 times 2 is 8, 8/10. Now, 1/10 already has a denominator of 10, so I don't need to do anything to that one. I'm just going to bring him over. 1/10. Now I have the same denominator, so I can add. 8/10 plus 1/10 is 9/10. Don't forget to add your whole numbers. 1 whole plus 2 wholes is 3 wholes. Now, the last step, step number 4, is simplify if needed. Well, 9 and 10 are 1 away from each other. They're consecutive numbers, so I do not need to simplify. So, 3 and 9/10 is my answer. Okay, here's our next problem. We have to use a common denominator to write an equivalent fraction with like denominators, and then we have to find the sum. Now, make sure that you write your answer in simplest form, so you have to simplify it also. So, our first problem says 7 and 2/5 plus 4 and 3/4. What I'd like you to do is try this question on your own and then press play when you're ready to go over the answer with me. Go ahead and press pause now. Okay, we had to add 7 and 2/5 plus 4 and 3/4. But before I can do that, I noticed that my denominators are not the same. So I have to change the fractions to equal fractions that have common denominators. To do that, you need to find the least common multiples of 5 and 4. Well, I wrote my multiples of 5 here and my multiples of 4, and I have to find the one that they have in common. That's the smallest. So I saw that 20 was my least common multiple. So I have to change my 7 and 2/5 to have a denominator of 20. So I'm going to come over and make sure I draw my denominator of 20 here. Now, from 5 to 20, you had to do 5 times 4 to get to 20. So you have to do 2 times 4, and that gives you 8. Now, I'm going to go ahead and bring over my whole number so I don't forget to add him. So 7 and 8/20 is what I have. Now, 4 and 3/4, I need to change my 3/4 so it has a denominator of 20. Well, 4 times 5 gives me 20, and 3 times 5 gives me 15. So I have 15/20. Now, let me go ahead and bring over my 4 wholes. Now, I have denominators of 20. So I can add my 8/20 and 15/20. 8 plus 15 is 23. And my denominator is 20. And 7 plus 4 is 11. So 11 and 23/20 is what I got. But if you're noticing from our 4th grade lessons, we learned what to do when we have an improper fraction with our mixed number. We have to change it to a mixed number that doesn't have an improper fraction. So I can break this up into an addition problem with my wholes. So I know that 20/20 is a whole. I had 3/20 left, so that's what equals 23/20. So you can see that 20/20 is a whole. So I'm going to add my 20/20 to my 11 wholes. So that gives me 12 wholes. Then I have my 3/20 left over. So my actual answer in the end is 12 wholes and 3/20. Here's our next problem, 1 and 3/10 plus 2 and 2/5. So I'm going to write this problem for us vertically so it's easier to see. So 1 and 3/10 plus 2 and 2/5. Now, I would like you to try to solve this problem on your own, and we can check over it when you get done. So go ahead and press pause, work out the problem, and press play when you're ready to go over the answer. Okay, let's go over how to solve this problem. So first of all, I need to add 1 and 3/10 plus 2 and 2/5. But I don't have the same denominators, so I have to change them so they're the same. I have to find common denominators. To do that, I need to find the least common multiple of 10 and 5. So I did my multiples of 5 here and my multiples of 10, and I saw that 10 was the least common multiple that they had in common. So I needed to change my 3/10 and my 2/5 so that it has a denominator of 10. Now, you can already see that 3/10 is the same. it has the denominator of 10, so I don't have to do anything to that 3/10. I'm just going to bring it over. But my 2/5 needs to be changed to a denominator of 10. So 5 times 2 gives me 10. So 2 times 2 gives me 4. So 2/5 is equal to 4/10. Now, I can add my fractions because they have the same denominator. 3/10 plus 4/10 is 7/10. And now I need to add my whole numbers. 1 whole plus 2 wholes is 3 wholes. So my final answer is 3 7/10. I cannot simplify this answer because the only factor that the 7 and the 10 have in common is 1. So when it's 1, it's done. So my final answer is 3 7/10. Here are your homework problems for tonight. 3 4/9 plus 3 1/2. Notice they're not the same denominator, so we got to change them. And 4 3/12 plus 4 1/4. We have to change the denominators on these also. So go ahead and work these out for your homework for tonight. And make sure that you put them on your notes, in your note packet. And we will practice tomorrow in class. So I will see you later. Bye.